Hello folks, welcome back to Marvel's Videos, where today we're looking into the first urban legend to possibly ever exist, the story or the urban myth of Spring-Heeled Jack. The legend of Spring-Heeled Jack started in England when a mysterious creature, perhaps a demon, started attacking women at night. When was he first seen? Who is he? A trickster? An inhuman creature? Or an evil demon from the pits of hell? Let's try to answer these questions today. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means an awful lot. Thank you, and let's begin. The origins of Spring-Heeled Jack, a creature of mystery and panic. In the early 1900s, London was plagued by a lot of ghost sightings. People claimed to have seen ghosts roaming around the streets at night and attacking people who were alone and walking home. These sightings, according to research scholars, had inspired a ghost tradition in Victorian England, where they liked sharing stories of supernatural sightings. Mary Stevens, a hardworking servant girl, was walking back to Lavender Hill one night in October 1837 from Battersea. She had just visited her parents and was on her way back to her work. As she walked, a strange figure leaped into the street from a building and held her tightly. This weird tall man, who appeared to be wearing a coat, started kissing her and tearing her clothes away. Her skin came in contact with his cold and clammy claws, and Mary started screaming. Her scream attracted the resident living nearby, and the attacker escaped. Although the people who had heard Mary and arrived to help her tried to find the trickster, he was nowhere to be seen. Mary tried to tell her story to the authorities, but she was disregarded as her account seemed outlandish. But Spring-Heeled Jack was just getting started. Disturbing encounters. Spring-Heeled Jack's reign of terror. The very next day, a strange figure that matched Mary's description jumped in front of a carriage, which startled the coachman so much that he lost control. The coachman crashed into a nearby wall and severely injured himself. Passers-by and witnesses claimed they have heard the figure let out a loud cackle and escaped by jumping onto a 9-foot-high wall. The initial stories were not taken seriously by the press and were dismissed. On the 9th of January, 1838, Sir John Cohen, who was the Lord Mayor of England, revealed that he had received an anonymous complaint about Spring-Heeled Jack's exploits. He reported that the latter claimed many women had lost their senses, were injured, and had dangerous fits thanks to the attacks of Jack. Some audiences dismissed this as tall tales of servant girls, but the mayor blamed affluent young men who played irresponsible games. Now that the matter received official attention, newspapers began to pick it up, and the stories of Jack became widely circulated. Many witnesses, mostly women, began reporting their encounters to the press, who soon named this weird figure Spring-Heeled Jack. These encounters were spread across areas of London, the Midlands, and Scotland. In January 1838, Polly Adams, who worked as a barmaid, was attacked by Jack, who, according to her, had viciously clawed at her. One of the most famous of them was the encounter with Jane Alsop. The same year, on the night of February 19th, Mrs. Alsop answered the door to a man who had claimed to be the police. This man requested Alsop to get a light, as he told her that he had caught Spring-Heeled Jack. As Alsop handed him a candle, the man threw off the cloak he was wearing, revealing a frightful face that emitted blue and white flames from the mouth. He was wearing a large helmet and a tight white suit that clung to his body that she described as an oilskin. Alsop reported that he began tearing at her clothes with his metal claws. She began to run towards her house, screaming for help as he tore at the skin of her neck and arms. One of her sisters came to the aid of Alsop, and the attacker escaped once again. 9 days after the attack on Jane Alsop, another attack took place at Green Dragon Alley. Lucy Scales, an 18-year-old, was returning home with her sister after visiting their brother, who was a butcher in Limehouse. As they passed Green Dragon Alley, they both saw a man standing ahead under the shadows of the night. As she was walking ahead of her sister, she came across the man who first blew a blue flame into her face. She was blinded by the flame and so startled that she started having fits that lasted for hours. Her brother heard the screams of his sisters and ran after the alley and helped him get home. The sisters later described the assailant as a tall and thin man of a gentlemanly appearance who appeared to be wearing a coat or cloak. There were reported sightings in the 1870s in Aldershot. Another famous sighting was by a sentry who was on duty and noticed a man who matched the description of Spring-Heeled Jack. The sentry asked him to state who he was, but the figure closed in on him and slapped him multiple times. The sentry responded by shooting him, but the bullets did not affect the man, who bounded away. Theories and suspects. Who or what was Spring-Heeled Jack? Many theories began to circulate as to who or what was Spring-Heeled Jack. Very few believed this was a supernatural creature's doing, and most blamed men with a macabre sense of humor or just troublesome criminals who attacked women. Skeptics often considered this as an excellent example of mass hysteria. After the attack on Jane Alsop, a man called Thomas Milbank, who had bragged that he was Spring-Heeled Jack, was tried. He was arrested and was found to be wearing a greatcoat and white overalls on the night of the attack. The only reason he was let go was because Jane Alsop insisted that her attacker blew flames out of his mouth and Milbank wasn't able to. This incident started speculations that perhaps Alsop was so scared by the attack that she imagined the flames coming out of his mouth. Another popular man who was suspected of being Spring-Heeled Jack was Henry de la Poer Beresford, an Irish nobleman. This theory is similar to that of the Lord Mayor, who blamed noblemen who placed irresponsible wagers, or to put it in today's terms, were doing this on a thoughtless dare. Henry, who was the third Marquis of Waterford, was infamous for his brawls, vandalism, and brutal sense of humor. He was even called the Mad Marquis. The British lexicographer E. Cobham Brewer put forth this theory in 1880, suggesting that Henry initially put on the farce of Spring-Heeled Jack as a joke, and since then he has had many imitators. But this theory doesn't hold itself against paranormal believers who question how any man could leap like Spring-Heeled Jack, citing the example of German paratroopers who broke their ankles after putting springs in the heels of their shoes. Believers of the occult think that Jack is a demon, as he is able to breathe fire and was accidentally brought into this world. Some think he manifested himself to create spiritual troubles in this world. There have also been theories of Jack being an alien. 3 people in Houston saw a man who resembled Spring-Heeled Jack on a July night in 1953. He jumped into a pecan tree and disappeared into a rocket-shaped UFO that shot upwards. People who believe in this theory are convinced that Jack came here through a wormhole and was waiting to be taken back to his dimension. The psychological explanation for the Spring-Heeled Jack incident is called the old hag phenomenon, which is a recorded and proved phenomenon where people hallucinate a perpetrator. The legacy of Spring-Heeled Jack, urban legend to pop culture icon. Although the encounters with Spring-Heeled Jack did not last for long, he became a well-known character in Britain, with stories being shared of his jumping abilities. He was a staple in the Penny Dreadfuls, and many literary works were written in his honor. John Thomas Haynes wrote a play in 1840 called Spring-Heeled Jack, the Terror of London, which showed Jack as a man who attacked women since his lover betrayed him. Frederick Hazelton in 1863 wrote Spring-Heeled Jack, or The Felon's Wrongs. In 2010, Mark Hoder released his alternate history novel, The Strange Affair of Spring-Heeled Jack, where Jack is portrayed as a time traveler. Jack is also a recurring character in the fantasy novel series Skullduggery, Pleasant by Derek Landy. His first appearance was in the second novel of the series called Playing with Fire. In the 2006 video game Elder Scrolls IV Oblivion, features the boots of Spring-Heeled Jack, which, if you get, can increase your character's acrobatics in-game. In Assassin's Creed Syndicate, which was released in 2015, a mission requires you to hunt down Jack. Marvelous verdict. That was the illustrious but short-lived stint of the terrorizing acrobat, Spring-Heeled Jack. While it is still a mystery who he was and whether he was just a man or some supernatural creature, his legend lives on. What do you guys think Spring-Heeled Jack was? An alien? An interdimensional creature? Or just a criminal? Let us know your theories in the comments down below. If you like the content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks, everyone.